Welcome to the Mark J. Ryan Experience with your host, Mark J. Ryan, mind-body expert with over 25 years experience in NLP, hypnosis, and coaching, taking you on the road to self-discovery, exploring different parts of yourself, including spirituality, the latest research into the brain and the mind, and how it can help you attain more of what you want, including wealth and money. Mark will be coaching you in the latest technologies of change, from interesting fields such as hypnosis, NLP, and brainwashing. You'll also learn how to improve your relationships and love life. Learn the newest techniques in sales and marketing to improve your income. You'll learn all this in an easy and fun way to understand using current events. Get ready to change your life for the better with the Mark J. Ryan Experience.
Hey everybody, it's Mark J. Ryan coming to you from the very nice Phoenix, Arizona. I say very nice. It has finally cooled down here. Moved here, I think it was around June 15th. Right in the midst of the summertime heat, which apparently this is the hottest Phoenix weather on record, the year that we moved here. And Kathy, my wife, said, you moved me to an oven. You moved us to an oven because of the kids too. So a lot of hot days here. It was really hot. To me, though, excuse me, I'll take the hot weather over the cold weather. Growing up in upstate New York, central New York, Finger Lakes area, outside of Syracuse, where we just got tons of snow. Syracuse is known as the cloudiest, rainiest, snowiest major city, over 50,000 in the United States. And, people from Buffalo will argue about the snow, but we get twice as much snow, and we get more rain than Seattle does, and more cloudy days than they do. Excuse me. But it was really nice to move down here, even with the heat. The heat was tough. Moving and the process of moving caused me to lose a lot of weight in the beginning of the summer. I've gained some of it back on, not all of it, but some of it. And this time of the year, I kept saying to Kathy, I was like, just a couple more months, just put your mindset in that it's going to be a couple months and it's going to be spectacular weather for the next 8 months. 7 to 8 months, it'll be perfect weather. And then you got 4 or 5 months of really hot weather, uncomfortable. Again, I can deal with it growing up. When I first moved to Texas years ago, moved down to Dallas, Texas, I think it was right out of college, 1982. I remember laying out at the pool at the apartment complex that we were in. We were up in Bent Tree area of northern Dallas, up in Addison area by the airport. And I remember this guy coming out and yelling at me. He says, boy, what are you, crazy? Get your ass away from that. It was like 110 degrees. And in Texas, it was hot. And I was just like, no, I've been waiting all winter and for many years of my life to get away from that. I mean, I'd lived in Florida earlier on, but it was nice to me to be able to lay out in the sun and the heat, and I enjoyed the heat. I had a kind of a reverse effect. I didn't learn to like the snow like a lot of my friends liked to, and I played hockey for a while. Took some cross country skiing, but never did downhill skiing, but I had a lot of friends that took full advantage. They liked to sleigh ride, they liked to go down hills and sleds, and they liked to ski, snowmobiling was fun, but I just did not like the cold. And so moving to Texas for the first time, I'm laying out in the sun, and this guy come out and he's getting your ass out of there. You're going to kill yourself. You're going to be burned up and have to go to the hospital. And I did get some pretty bad sunburns down in Texas. But so when I came back here from living in Mount Shasta for 8.5 years, Shasta doesn't have as cold of winters is New York, upstate New York. It didn't get down into the minus 20 degrees, minus 30 degrees, which it has, not wind chill, but regular temperature in upstate New York. And Kathy's from Chicago, so she's used to cold, windy, long winters as well. it would get down sometimes to the single digits, but most of the time it stayed in the 20s as the lows for the winters, and then the highs would go 30 to 40. So it was tolerable. Sometimes it'd have some really nice days, but it was long, 6, 7, 8 months. And when we moved together, her from Chicago, me from New York, down to Austin, Texas, when we lived in Dripping Springs, Texas, outside of Austin, it was, to me, it was like, that's it. I'm not going back. I'd lived in Dallas earlier on for 10 years or so. So when I went back to New York, I hated it the whole time. I never got used to the cold again. I mean, as a kid, I was kind of used to it. So there was a lot in this move from the long winters where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Not only were we having long winters, but Mount Shasta is north of Sacramento, 3.5, 4 hours, just south of the Oregon border, sitting right next to a 14,200 foot extinct volcano, dormant. I don't know which. So it was in the middle of nowhere. And growing up and doing the business that I did for many years, besides doing the therapy and doing the NLP and the hypnosis, I had a side business where I was selling different kinds of protective eyewear and sunglasses, and I'd go to different types of shows on the weekends. So some of these shows, they were 9, 12 days long. In the summertime, when there was not a lot of sportsman shows or fishing shows, I sold polarized glasses for fishermen as well. And then I went to sports shows, shooters and hunters and different people. I sold different colored lenses, but they also were eye protection. They were polycarbonate, so they'd protect against a stray shot or something, a BB from a shotgun bouncing off something and going back to hit them. So I had a little business there that was doing well. And the thing about those shows was there was a lot of people there. And I say a lot of people, some of the shows, like, the New York State Fair, I actually had a booth there. A friend of mine that is long past by now, but he set it up and said, hey, let's do this together. So we're like, okay, and it was a 12-day haul. It was a long haul, 1 million people coming by the booth. So it was a lot of people. And I used to do vacations. I would drive out to Mount Shasta. Actually, I went out one summer, 1990, I think it was. And I think it was 1990. And went out one summer and kind of found it. That's a whole long story in itself of how I found Mount Shasta, the synchronicities that happened that got me there. I may even have mentioned it on different podcasts, that there was some pretty cool stuff that happened. But anyways, I found myself there, did a July 4th festival, and I had my glasses. At that time of the year, I basically had sunglasses. And set up a booth there and did real well, enough to pay for the trip and have a little bit of money. So I decided I'd keep doing that as long as I could. Well, it was almost 20 years. I think I did it 16, 17 years. Missed 1 year. Felt bad about it. I couldn't get out there. But I would drive from New York to Mount Shasta for the July 4th festival. And the year I missed it, everybody that came back the next year say, oh, you're so glad you missed it. We had hail and rain, really unusual weather. And it had rained so much, and with the hail melting, that it had caused a flood. People's boxes were getting soaking wet, so they didn't do well, and they weren't happy about it. But anyways, when I would do these other shows, I was doing them almost every single weekend, and then doing the work, the therapy and everything, writing, studying, going to seminars. I'd have to take a weekend off or something, but most of the time during the week is when I was doing that, and then the weekends I was doing my business. So I was pretty busy, traveling around a lot. But when these shows would come out, you have a lot of people there. There'd be, thousands, 10, 20,000, sometimes more, up to 1 million people, like at the fairs. And I was doing, sometimes at one time, I wasn't doing a lot of therapy at the time, but I was doing almost 50 weekends a year, traveling around. And some of those weekends weren't just weekends, they were times in between days, 9-day event, a sportsman show for 9 days in the middle of winter in Cleveland at the IX Center. You had 300,000 people going through there. So when the summertime came and I was going to Mount Shasta, I couldn't wait to go to Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta was quiet. Mount Shasta was in the middle of nowhere. It was far away from where everybody was. So this was a place that I would drive from New York to go there, and then I would do the 4th of July festival there, and then I'd head down to Pismo Beach to see some of my friends that lived in Pismo Beach. So I had a great time. Every once in a while, I would drive out around Christmas time in the fall, come out to Pismo Beach. One time I went up to Mount Shasta and was amazed at the amount of snow that was on the ground there. So it's a 4,000 foot elevation at the base of Mount Shasta, even though it's a 14,200 foot mountain. We got a lot of snow there. And it would come sporadically. The first year we moved there, 2010, when I left Austin, within a few days, we had, it was just crazy. We got 10 feet of snow. We lost like 22 trees, big cedars, big pines that were in the backyard of the house that we were staying in, and a lot of them would snap off the top, and some of them fell over, which turned out to be real good for the next year because we had so much firewood that I was able to not have to buy a bunch of firewood from $200 to $300 a cord. Sometimes it was less than that if we bought, and we'd have to go through 6 cords and of burning for the house that we were staying in. So the amount of time that we were there, there was a lot of work. There was a lot of work at the house. There was a lot of quiet. It was peaceful. And once the season was over, the season was only a couple months long, and that was like from the 1st of July, sometimes the end of, and it was June too, sorry. But the first part of June, and it really started with the 4th of July festival. And then once Labor Day hit, man, boom, it was like over. There's people coming up because it's a great skiing mountain. They'd like to go skiing up there. But it wasn't anything like the summertime. So it became a pretty lonely place. And I remember I used to drive up there when I'd get up there from New York. I'm like, oh my gosh, because the days there this is again, 1990 is when I first went up there. Crystal clear blue skies, and it was a little darker blue because you're up high at 4,000 foot, and it was spectacular there. The big trees, the pines, the cedars, just go everywhere you looked. It was like, wow, this is phenomenal. But I'd stay about 3 weeks max there, and then I would travel around. So I got it from the perspective of going when I'm doing shows year round, going to a place that when you go to you can drive to the top of Mount Shasta, not all the way up to 14,000 foot. I think it's 8,000 or 9,000 feet, which pretty spectacular view. Those of you who've been following me for a long time probably seen some different pictures and videos that I've taken from the top where you can drive to. And it's spectacular up there. It even gets quieter. It's so quiet up there, especially if nobody else is around. A lot of times I would drive up there and there'd be nobody else up there, that I could hear it was like loud. It was so quiet, it was loud. And sometimes I'd sit there and I'd hear a noise like a rock falling, and I'd look and I'd zero, but I couldn't really quite see where I was zeroing in on, and then find out it was way far away, and a little squirrel or chipmunk had moved and a little rock had rolled down. So your hearing was really not impeded by other noises of the city or other vehicles or people talking. So you could really get a sense of how quiet it was, and I loved it, especially from being around all those people and everything all year long. And during the week time, a lot of times what I would find myself is not wanting to even talk to my clients during the week, because I talked to so many people during the weekend doing these shows that I wanted to get away from people. So Mount Shasta, after Austin, was really the perfect place for me. And Kathy loved it there. She wanted to go. And so we ended up moving up there. But over a period of time, being that far away from people, it has its pluses and it has its minuses. So we had our quiet, we had our privacy, but we did live in a neighborhood where there were some people mainly on one side, and then there was the other side too. It was a really nice neighborhood, a great walk. Year round it was a great walk. Get a little slippery in the wintertime if we had a lot of snow. Tough to walk around there. But it was all the way around was 1.6 miles, and it was a great walk. A little up and down, but mainly flat. And it was really nice. Then there was a meadow there. On some of the videos, you've seen some of the videos that I've done, the DVDs, I've included footage from the meadows, which probably is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Kathy loved it. It was her magical place. We'd go there and we'd meditate and talk. We talked about if we ever hit it big, it had a lot of money, like in the, won the lottery type of a thing, that we would buy the land and make a resort there so other people could come and enjoy it, because it was such a spectacular place with incredible quietness and energy. Now there was On the end of the meadow, there was a train. The train ran through there, but when the train would go through and toot its horn, it had a special sound to it. The place was magical. So all that stuff was there, and all that stuff was available to us when we first got there. The house that we moved into, it was just going to be a temporary situation. It turned into 8.5 years. The guy that built it, I knew. One of my friends said, look, he's got to go back. He's got family issues back in Vermont, and he needs somebody to stay at this house. And I was in Texas at the time, and I wasn't going to do it. Then we changed our minds and said, hey, let's do this. We had visited the summer before. I took Kathy there, and Kathy, on the way leaving there, she was crying, literally. And I said, what's the matter? She goes, this is the first time I've ever felt like I was home. I felt something magical about this place. So it wasn't long before we were living in this house. And it was a special custom home, really nice house, a lot of room, 4,000 square feet. He was a builder, and he was trying to sell it, but he had got done building it around 2008. I think it was on the market for like 1.3 or something like that at the time, million. And that's when the market tanked. Nobody was giving loans and everything. And he was up to his eyebrows in debt, probably way over his head, actually, past that, from building the house. And the house was great. He used a lot of different ways of watching the land. It was hardwood floors throughout the whole house, and it was all down to acacia wood. And acacia wood is really beautiful. It's got a lot of character to it. It had the piping, the radiant heat throughout the whole house, upstairs and downstairs. So there was a lot of positive things, but like everything in life, you start to learn there's another side of the equation. There's another part of it. When I would come up to Mount Shasta for 3 weeks at a time, it was just enough time. For me at that point, coming up there to live, yes, I was drawn to the quietness. I was drawn to the energy of the area, the people up there. There was a lot of things that I was looking for, because I was also at the same time trying to get away from other things. So it worked at that point. But then when you're there for a while, and when you're sitting with us, it all doesn't just stay that way. Things begin to shift. The biggest thing was business-wise. When I was in Texas, I was in New York, people would come to see me. I got to actually have clients sit down in front of me and work. When I was in Mount Shasta, that was far and few between. I had some people come from Europe, people from New York, people from Texas, from Washington, D.C. area, Virginia, but not very many, because we were 4 hours from the closest airport. So somebody had to fly into Sacramento, which is not that big of an airport. You don't get the greatest deals flying there. Then they had to rent a car, and they had to drive up there. Now, you could have gone to Medford, but Medford was that was 2 hours away. Even a more isolated airport. Not so much anymore. It's getting better. But so everything I was doing was on the phone. And that's before Skype really got popular, where not a lot of people knew what it was, so I was on the phone most of the time. And thank goodness the coaching that I do and have been doing for years, it was always an option, the phone coaching, if somebody was out of town and couldn't come there. But I missed the people that would come and sit down before me. I got a lot more information than just a regular cordless phone that I would sit there and do sessions with people with. I learned to get really good with the phone. And thankfully, that's part of the learning that we were going through with John Overdurf, was pretty well people from around the world wanted to coach with them, and they couldn't necessarily fly in all the time or every month. So he started doing phone coaching with them, and then he started teaching them about that and how to listen for the way people talk, their tonality. So a lot of it is in your imagination, but then you got to check back with the person to find out how accurate you are with that, what you're picking up, what your mind's reading, and then let them tell you more. This is before Skype. I do a lot of Skype sessions now. I did one this morning with a guy, which gives me more information. But there's something magical and special about actually sitting in a room full of people. Not full of people. I was thinking seminars where I'm going next. But sitting with a person, an individual, and realizing that they're contemplating something and they need some time to think. Or they're finally moving their eyes into an area that you've hoped that they're accessing a certain part of their brain, and there they are, and I can just be quiet and let them sit with that for a while. And there's a sense of the communication and the connection that goes on when they're in the room. And it happens on the phone too. It happens on Skype as well. But there's something magical about that. So I was missing that. I was missing the connection with my clients. And yeah, we made it work on the phone, got the results, but I was missing that. Same thing with seminars, talks. Sometimes I go around and talk to people. Do little get-togethers, little seminars. The town I was in was a little town of 3,000 people. And in the summertime, there was probably 3, 4, 5 times that. And people coming through, and it was very magical. But once everybody was gone and the summer was over, it was different. It was a whole different, and it got pretty lonely. And if you wanted the quiet, it was fantastic. But if you wanted some interaction, it wasn't there. Me thinking about doing seminars, I'm thinking, okay, I got a pool here in Phoenix now, 4.5 million people. Okay, I'm back. There's another feature of living in Phoenix, the big city. It's Sunday afternoon, and we got a delivery from the USPS, United States Postal Service, on a Sunday. A package for Kathy. Anyways, so where I was going, I think, before the doorbell rang, was that the thing with Shasta is there comes to be a time when you start to get other points of the equation. And I wouldn't say it's just about where you live or where you're moving. It could be a lot of different things in life. Where things started to open up and let us know that we might want to consider somewhere else. Even though we loved it there, we'll always have a presence back at Mount Shasta. Hopefully have some kind of retirement home, whether it's small or not, that we can go up there during the summer times. But what had started happening was, from the beginning, the paradise and the beauty and everything that we lived in, it then began to start to switch to see another side of the equation, other sides of us, personally. But let's say the kids. Kids were doing good. Claire was doing real good. She's talented. She's an artist. She sings. She does all kinds. She loves horseback riding. But stuff started happening with horseback riding. The place is closing down. Her not having the love of her life is horseback riding and horses. And all of a sudden now she doesn't have access and availability like she did before. Who's going to teach her to sing? How's she going to get into something like this? So Max, with computers and being around different people, we got a limited town. So we wanted to introduce the kids to some culture. Mount Shasta has a limited amount. Yeah, they could travel. You can go to Redding, which is an hour away, or Medford, north to an hour, but to get to Sacramento, to get to San Francisco, 5.5, 6 hours. So yeah, we go down to Carmel, we go down to Monterey and go visit little places, the aquarium, and go to museums and things like that. But that's different visiting as opposed to being part of, immerse yourself in the culture. And so we started looking. We started looking all over the place. We wanted to stay in California and be close to the beach. Just as the wild things started happening that let us know, like all of a sudden there was all kinds of forest fires for the last 3, 4, 5 years. We were in Shasta, so we'd have these wonderful, beautiful summers, and we'd only get 3, maybe 3.5 months of summer, and then 2 months of it was smoke. Literally buried in smoke, where you just. And then last year when we were there, not this past August, but the August before, our dog got sick. Our golden retriever Alex got sick, and he developed cancer, and we started using different supplements and things like that. We actually put him on CBD, which was working really good for him after I'd seen a friend whose dog was in really bad shape and had a hard time breathing and was big and fat and everything. And he started giving. Then the next time I was like, "Did you get a new dog?" What? No, it was the same dog, but it had lost all this weight. It was breathing good. It had all kinds of. It looked like a little puppy. I mean, it was old dog too. I'm like, "What did you do?" He goes, "CBD did this." So I'm thinking, man. I said, "Can you get me some?" I said, "I'd love to give it to our dog." He goes, "Yeah, I can get. But there was something about the smoke. Every time he'd go out, he'd start coughing, and he was breathing in the smoke, so it was toxic. The allergies that we started getting there from living around the cedars and the pines, the mold, because we kind of lived in a forest, The mold that was there was incredible, and I was getting highly allergic. Probably part of I had a sickness up there for about 4 or 5 years that really knocked me out of the game. So what was paradise, what was a great deal, we started to see the other end of the coin, the other end of the equation that would come in. And Mount Shasta kept giving a lot of great stuff. It was still beautiful, and it was places to go and be alone and meditate and connect with spirit and pray, whatever you wanted to do. And then the family moved in next door that had a big mastiff, a dog, huge dog, and another little one. And when this dog would bark, when they let him out to go to the bathroom at 2:30 in the morning, the dog would start barking. I'd be wide awake, full wide awake, and shining my flashlight out there, because you're in the middle of nowhere. You don't expect to. But this dog would literally vibrate the windows in my house. I'd have little spectrum things that little things, glass things that when the light would come through it would shine spectrum. And different times of the day, it would vibrate that against the window from this dog barking. And then that turned into a nightmare with the neighbors there. They finally ended up moving. Then some new people came in, and they had 2 dogs, smaller dogs. Anyways, it just, from an observational point of view, it was like, was this stuff here the whole time? Or is there a message for me? Am I seeing so much of one equation? Or maybe this is just a message that maybe it's time to start thinking about going somewhere else, not just for me or for Kathy. Things with the house started going wrong. It was on a well system that was only like 30 foot deep, and then they were having trouble with the water in time. We couldn't drink that water. The water in Mount Shasta is the purest, coldest, comes out at like 34 degrees, and it's so pure you can just put your face down there and drink it. And the water people will tell you this from the water department. But the well we had in our yard where we lived, you couldn't drink. It was full of all kinds of chemicals, which I'd have to fix parts on the toilet and things like that. So again, you get this big, beautiful house that's with all this acacia hardwood, and then he had these local artists come in and do our showers. Like we had 3.5 showers, and the showers were all this beautiful, gorgeous tile work that were pieces of art, trees, and one of them had like fish and blue flooring, and it was a great house. It was really a nice house, but it was more of a show house than a live house. And so different things started happening and going wrong and seeing a different equation. And again, you still got the other things that are going on there, but it was different. And I started to have, and Kathy started to have, was like, it's almost as if something's saying we've got to move. But as I was saying earlier, we went to California, Southern California. I say California, we kind of considered ourselves in the state of Jefferson in Northern California. We like to separate ourselves, be a part of Southern Oregon. And there's a movement to do that called the state of Jefferson in Northern California. And so we'd go down further, and loved Carmel. We loved Santa Barbara. So we started looking in both those areas and everywhere in Pismo Beach. I loved. And we'd start to get these places, and we'd go to visit them and go to see them or have it lined up, and then something would happen and it would fall through. This one place in Santa Barbara we were going to get was horse property. It was gorgeous, very expensive, and we were really stretching ourselves, and we were deciding to do it. And Kathy got in touch with a lady and had great rapport and communication, and we had set up a date to go, see it. And if we liked it, we're just going to put a down payment and sign the contract. It was really nice. North of Santa Barbara, just a little bit. It's by Santa Ynez area, the horse country down there. Anyways, she calls us one day out of the blue, the weekend before, and she goes, well, what time are you guys getting here? And we said, well, we're coming next weekend. We've took time off work, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, oh, well. She goes, well, there's a couple here looking at the property, and if they get it, I'm going to go ahead and let them have it since you're not here. And it was that kind of stuff all the time. And we're like, are we not supposed to live in California? Are we not supposed to live in California? It's like, where else? So we were looking at Oregon. And I really didn't want to go further north and get into weather that was close to the weather I grew up in Syracuse, cloudy, rainy, and again, Seattle, Portland, nice to visit, but do I want to live there? That was one of the things that Shasta really taught me is this is a wonderful place to visit, and I'll always have a presence there and maybe spend the summers there for the rest of my life, but do I want to live there year round? And I think a lot of times we get the sense, and I've known a lot of people that would move to Florida. They'd go down on vacation during the spring break or spring training, and they say, I want to move down here. They get down there and they're like, yeah, it's great during that time of the year, but the rest of the year I'm not sure I like it. Well, I was kind of in that situation that we were used to the cream of the crop in the summertime, the beautiful, gorgeous days, the blue sky, perfect, soft air against your skin, cool nights. So even though it might go up to the 90s during the daytime, at nighttime it was dropping down the mid 50s or the low 50s. So it's just this perfect balance. But there's other times of the year. Anyway, so no matter where we looked and what we were doing, and I went to Pismo Beach one time on the way back from a trip to Arizona to see John Overdurf, and found some places, and I had a weird experience with something in the sky that I did a podcast on a few months back, but nothing was working. And I said, well, if we're getting blocked this much, then this is not where we're supposed to be. So we started saying, where else do we want to go? Las Vegas, looked there a little bit. No, don't want to do Nevada. Don't want to do Idaho. We were planning on moving to Madison, Georgia area where John Overdurf is. I got John Burton that's up in Greenville, South Carolina, and John and Kirsten down in Madison. So we were thinking about Athens, Georgia. Looked there, had all kinds of great stuff going on there. I don't know what happened there. That kind of fell apart. So we got to Phoenix area. We started looking in Phoenix and certain areas of Phoenix, and we found the kind of houses that we were looking for and the price range that we were looking for, because we wanted a big house, wanted to certain areas, and we found an abundance of what we were looking for. But it was coming up on summertime. It was coming up on 116 degrees. What do we want to do? But everything that we were thinking, Kathy and I both love Sedona. It's close. Prescott's close. Big thing was an airport. We're about 40 minutes from the airport. A straight shot drive, easy drive to the airport instead of 3.5, 4 hours, having to rent a car, blah, blah, blah. So everything that was in our criteria of what we were looking for a new place, Phoenix was matching, except for the heat. So we said, okay, let's take a look. Let's go down and take a look. So I think it was in May. We went down, drove down. Kathy took some days off work. Max stayed up there in Mount Shasta with his dad. And Claire, and Kathy went down there, and it was just starting to get hot at that point. I think the days were about 100, 102, some 90s. Stayed at a nice hotel in an area of Peoria called P83. Excuse me. So we were looking in Chandler. We were looking in Scottsdale. Scottsdale was used to from coming down here and filming and staying all that time working with John at the Gainey Suites Hotel in Scottsdale. And it just wasn't working over in those areas there. And so Kathy started looking more in Peoria in the northwest area, and she found some houses way up in the northwest, up by Lake Pleasant, which is a nice lake northwest of Phoenix. And then I got out there and we were looking, and I'm like, these are kind of like Stefford wives communities, perfect communities, all just done up and everything, but so far away from everything. And when I'd come down to Scottsdale, I was used to that closeness and all the big stores and the restaurants. But the one thing about Arizona is that even though it's desert and it looks desolate, you'll drive and you'll see all like houses and communities and stores. They kind of build it in with the environment so it doesn't stand out. And so we went to the place that we're at now as one of the first places we went to. And P83 is an area of, it's by 101, which is like an interstate highway, but it's an Arizona highway, and Bell Road, which is a main road that goes from one end of Phoenix all the way through to the other end of Phoenix, from Peoria, northwest Phoenix, all the way through to Scottsdale on the other end. So it's a main thoroughfare, but it's not like a highway. It's just a main road. And there's a sports complex there. The P83 is what they call that. And a lot of sports teams come down, baseball teams. And the sports and anything sports related is huge there. And then they've got the Arrowhead Mall. So it was a perfect place to locate when we were coming down to look for houses. So we'd have all these different amenities. And the other thing I talked to you about with Shasta was Kathy and I both enjoy to go out to eat. And Shasta had a couple restaurants that would come through that were just fantastic, but then they'd be closed in like a month or two, sometimes not even that long. Then they'd reopen, and I mean, really good. Some of the best food we've had there, so we really got excited about it. But by the end of the 8.5 years there was like nothing left and shit. We're like, this is driving us nuts. We'd actually drive an hour to just go down to Reading or up to Medford to have something to eat, and we had to do our shopping there an hour away. We had some grocery stores, they were tiny. So we missed the shopping aspect of it. We both liked to shop. Claire and Max loved to shop, but we all loved to eat and good food. And we had 8.5 years of a drought of good restaurants and foods where we go out and enjoy ourselves. And so when we came to where we're at now, it was kind of away from, it's about a 25-minute drive from that P83 area. And I kept feeling like this lonely feeling, like, oh, here we go. We're in a Shasta area again. We're out in the middle of nowhere. And I felt immediately like, no, I don't like this area. I don't want to be in this area. And then the house we were going to see, the lady was a real flake that was showing it to us, and we had to wait for it. And then when we got there, there was other people showing up, and she wasn't going to show it to us by ourselves. We had to be shown with it, and it was just, and I just said, those are all signs to me that I don't want to have to deal with this lady as a landlord and a management company that she would be running. I'm like, this no way. But we had gone while we were here. We had gone for a walk around the neighborhood, and the pathways and everything, they were really nice. We found these little areas, these little picnic areas that we stopped at. Said they've really done this well. This whole community it's one of the best designed communities, top 10 I think in the United States. So we went back, and then she said, there's another house that's fairly close to it in the same community. Let's go take a look at it. And so we went and take a look at it, and I walked in and walked to the house. The first thing I liked about the house was that there was a lot of carpeting. There was some hardwood floor, but the other house was all hardwood. So in a sense, it was like living inside of a guitar box, or inside of a guitar. Like I would literally be in my bed upstairs in the room, and somebody would drop a fork in the kitchen or even in the living room, and I'd start looking on my floor thinking that I dropped something. Like, what is that? I mean, you just hear every single little noise. Somebody broke wind downstairs. You could hear it up. It just, like I said, living in the inside of a guitar. So we come to the house, and it's carpeted. It's all upstairs is carpeted. There's some tile in the bathrooms and stuff like that. And I'm walking through and looking, and I'm like, you know what? This is the house. It's so Kathy's like, how do you like it? I said, this is the house. I said, I'm not liking that we're so far away from everything. And I got a kind of a lonely feel. I said, but the second time we're out here, I'm liking it. And it turns out this was the house we ended up getting. We started to look at a couple other, and she's like, I'm feeling it too. That is the house. And that's where we presently are. And it's funny because the park that we went to that was by the other house where we had the goofy management lady, there's a park there, and now we're just on the other side of that park. So we're real close to that park. A lot of the places we went to walk and looked at, it was here. One of the things when we were leaving after 8.5 years, we didn't have much. Yeah, we had a 26-foot truck that we pulled from Texas that we moved, and it's actually two of it. Max's father, Frank, who's a good friend of mine, he had one too. So we had two 26-foot trucks. We were both pulling our cars, and then Kathy was driving with the kids. But we had accumulated stuff. Now, when I was getting ready to leave, we knew 6 months. They'd let us know in January that at the end of the lease that they had some things they wanted to do. They wanted to sell the house, is what it was, because the guy that we got the house from, he ended up losing it to the bank. The bank said, hey, you've been tenants, you want to keep being. First they tried to buy us out, and we're like, no, we've got a lease. So then they said, okay, well, you want to continue the lease? And I'm like, sure. So we ended up staying, 4 years or so with them. But then they finally said, look, we want to. And we kept trying to say, can we at least go through the summer so we can start off in Arizona? And they're like, and nobody would answer us. We contacted them, I don't know how many different ways, and they wouldn't answer us. But once we came down here and came back, signed the lease, the contract before we left here, went back there as we were getting ready to leave. Like several weeks, they contacted us and said, "Hey, yeah, we'd love to have you stay, and things have changed and everything." Like, you want to talk about getting upset and mad because we already had started to move. But back in January, before then, when we first had the 6-month notice that it was time to evacuate the house after 8.5 years, I started packing then. I said, look, I want to see how much stuff I got, because there's things in corners, and I'd been through packing in New York before that, a couple years before that, moving out after 17 years, and then in Texas, when we moved from Texas to here. I'm like, I want to get a head start on this. I don't want this to all come at one time. So I did about a month worth of work in between my coaching sessions and writing and everything. So I did a lot. And then I let it go for a while. And then as we started getting closer, I said, I got about 30 days. No, it was about 60 days. And I said, I'm going to start packing again. And then we took the break to come down here. But I just barely made it. And one of the main things about this move and the move to Shasta was something that doesn't get exercised that got really exercised. And this is kind of, if there's a lesson in this, and I hope you get out of that, was the amount of decisions that had to be made. Do I keep this? Do I throw it away? Do I give it away? Do I sell it? And then selling it, how much do I sell it for? Am I willing to lower the price? How much am I going to lower the price? So for 60 days, it was actually longer than that because I was selling stuff throughout. The amount of decisions that had to be made were incredible. And I realized that a lot of times with procrastination, and I've got a product on procrastination that I've done, procrastination is not wanting to make the decision and not going through the mental steps to make those decisions. But the biggest thing is once you have something, there's a lot of studies, and I can go through the science of this, that once you have something, once you've obtained it, once it's yours, once you've taken possession of it, it becomes more valuable to you than the price at what you purchase it at, because you have ownership, you have identity, whatever it is that goes with it. So letting go of it, it's got different type of a worth now. That's not just a monetary worth, it's got a sentimental worth to it or whatever. So, and I had over 2,000 books, and I was just kind of made a big decision to say, I know where the books that if I'm planning to get rid of, I'll go through that and let some of those go, but I'm taking my library with me. That's one of the things I really enjoy, is my library. And so that was a fairly easy decision to start just packing all that stuff up. But then stuff that I had accumulated from when I was a kid, from living 17 years at that house in New York, and the amount of decisions and then every little thing that I'm looking at, the emotions that come with this. Do I keep this? Do I let this go? Do I give this away? Do I sell it? Running everything through there. That to me is where a lot of stress comes from. But I realized this, and I said, how do I turn this around and start to exercise my mind and about giving things away, which I wanted to give a lot of stuff away. But then I would get up into the emotional part, and then I'm like, nah, I could take this with me. Stuff from when I was, a little kid. So it was pretty amazing. And then it started getting to the point where I'm saying, okay, I've got a lot more stuff here. And I say, the family, we've got a lot more stuff here that's going to fit in this 26-foot truck. But I was sure that it was going to fit in the 26-foot truck, because by the time I got done giving, we knew we were going to give a bunch of stuff away and sell other stuff. But even with doing that, there was still a lot more. So I had to now make new decisions of saying, okay, if it comes down to it, stuff that I've decided to keep, what am I going to give away or sell or donate or leave at the curb? And pretty well I didn't book many sessions. I was doing some coaching sessions here and there, but this was like full-time. Time I got up in the morning, time I went to bed exhausted of doing this every day for almost 2 months. When I got a coaching session, I was glad. It was a little bit of a break. I could relax and slow down a little bit. It wasn't the physical labor that was involved there. I looked at it. I reframed the physical part of it as we bought a bunch of plastic tubs of different sizes, and especially with the books, filling those tubs up, carrying them around, carrying them downstairs, stacking them up, rearranging them and everything like that. I said, this is going to be my workout. This is going to be. I still did my walks in the morning. Then I'd come and I'd do that. But something started happening towards the end of it where I had to get to a point where I realized that there's a lot of stuff. And we knew Frank was going to be coming down, so we could leave a few things like some bikes and things that he would have extra room and he could bring with him for us down there. Because he was planning on moving as well. But the thing that really started happening was, and then I didn't realize, but I kind of made the connection once I was here in Arizona. Just follow me through this. Was I didn't want, there was certain furniture, stuff that I had an attachment to, but then I had other stuff that I knew was worth money, and I kept trying to sell it in Shasta, a little town of 3,000 people. And I'm thinking I could sell this in Arizona and it'll sell for a lot more money. And then the tension and the pressure, and to make a long story short, it comes to a time where we're packing it up, where we've only got the truck for a couple days to pack it, hired people to help pack it, got all the stuff in there that I wanted, but there was a ton of stuff left over. So this guy that I'd hired, one of these guys that I'd hired, he just recently lost his job. So he was glad to have, I think I paid him 15 or 20 bucks, 15, and then I ended up giving him 20 bucks an hour, because where the other people that I had hired, they were more kids. They're like, okay, tell me what to do. And if they didn't tell them what to do, they were talking and goofing off and everything like this. But the guy that I hired that helped me, that had the job, he was like doing stuff. He didn't stop doing stuff. He said, you want to do this? And he'd give me suggestions where the kids would say, hey, maybe you ought to try this. And I finally said, I finally told him, I said, look, do me a favor. Nobody ask me any questions. Nobody tell me anything unless I ask you for it. If it's an emergency, scream my name. But I was overwhelmed with the amount of decisions and the emotions and the pressure from that. But this guy was just doing things that would help. And he'd say, hey, listen. And I'd say, you can tell me anything you want. What you're doing is productive. It's not pulling away from my energy. It's adding to it. And I could tell you, with people having employees and stuff like that, I could see how this could really weigh on somebody that's a manager or entrepreneur that hires people. Anyways, I'm going to take a little sip of water while I'm talking to you. So I started getting down to the end of this, and I'm realizing there's a lot of good stuff I'm not going to be able to take with me. And I can't leave it here. There's some stuff because Frank has already got his truck packed up. So then I did a shift, and I started saying, you know what? Let's start giving it away. So I entered into the giving away aspect of it. And so this guy that was helping us move, and I'm just like, would you like this? And this big, thick glass table, I mean, it was like 1.5 inches thick, and it weighed a ton. But it was beautiful. It was almost like it was a old bank teller window or something like that. And I had checked on the glass itself. The glass itself was like $700 to $900, and I'm just like, that'll look perfect in this room. And Kathy's like, just get rid of it, just let it go. But I was holding on to stuff, and I hope you get the metaphor, the aspect of how we hold on to stuff up here too, and how we hold on to stuff here, and how it weighs us down, and all the memories and the decisions we have to make to let things go. And this is what I do for a living, is helping people that are attached to certain things or ways of being or how they process information to have the tools to do that. But here I am in a similar situation in a different context, going through this same type of emotional thing. So I then have to go, what's going to be the most efficient way to do this for me? And it's giving it away. Once I started giving it away, then I'm like, what else could I give away? What could I pull out of the truck and give away? And I'd say to this guy, you want this too? Do you want this too? He had to come back. I don't know how many pickup trucks full of stuff that he had to come back. And plus I paid him. And I tipped him, and I paid him extra. And he helped me going down the road. We had a brand new truck from, was it Ryder? Yeah, I think it was Ryder. Ryder Trucks. It was a brand new truck. Penske. I'm sorry. It used to be Ryder Penske, but it was Penske truck. Brand new. Only had like 1,000 miles on it. But as I started going, he helped me load my car up and get that all tied down. I mean, just so many extra things this guy did. So I felt like I was getting great benefits. So I'm just like releasing and but we still, by the time we closed the door, we had to still shove a few things up there, so that it was completely full. Left Frank a few things, but gave this guy a bunch of stuff. He let me know one of the headlights was out. We tried to fix one of the headlights. We called the company, and they said it was going to be like $300 to get it fixed, and you had to bring it to a certain place, blah, blah, blah. So we weren't going to be able to leave that night. So it's like, so we got some of the couch, our couch I left by the curb and told different people that were helping us move. If you got friends, anybody, church, tell them to come get it. It's free. They can have. So we had to bring some of that stuff back in to sleep for the night in an empty house on hardwood floors. But he helped us. And we ended up having to drive the truck without the headlights. So we weren't really driving at nighttime. We had to, but it was only a couple days driving. Anyways, I'd let all this stuff go. A lot of furniture, a lot of good furniture, a lot of stuff that had meaning, that had emotions, that I could have sold, which would have helped with some of the move. And the thing is, with Mount Shasta selling, there were 3,000 people that it's not a wealthy place. It's the poorest county in California, Siskiyou County. So you weren't getting top dollar. And so my mindset had been adjusted and reset to say, what's this worth and how much is it worth? And I want to hold on to it because we got such a big house that we're moving to in Arizona, about the same square footage, that I want to be able to fill this up nicely. But I'm realizing there's no way. Especially with all the books, 2,000 books, I don't even know how many boxes. They weren't boxes, but the little tubs full. Where that truck, as big as that truck was, you could see how weighed down it was just from the books and the other stuff we had. So, anyways, we ended up moving. We get all our stuff. We get down to Arizona. I had some people set up here. There's a Christian guy, and he brought 3 young men. And while it took us 2 days to pack the truck, it took us 2.5 hours to unload the truck. These guys were humpers. I mean, they worked. He came with these straps to put around the body where you could bend your legs and lift things up. And we got it off the truck, and then, we filled the house, and we had a 4-car garage, whereas before we had a 2-car garage. But this one wasn't 4 cars wide. It was 2 deep. So I'm like, that's beautiful, because we unload the truck because we've only got 2 cars. Where the other 2 cars are, what I'll do is I'll put all the books, and we'll just use this as a storage area, and then we'll slowly move things into the house when we need it, besides the furniture that we needed to put it in there. So anyways, by the time we were done, I had left a bed there, my bed. So there was a twin bed that we bought that I think Claire was sleeping on when she was younger. That was my bed in the new house. So here I am working another 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And now, unloading the truck, it was 113 when we unloaded the truck. That's the outside. That's not on the inside of the truck. Or the inside of my garage, which was a lot hotter. So we got all that stuff packed. There was still a lot of space in the house because we left so much stuff behind. Couldn't get it all in there. And so this is the long part of what I'm getting to with the story, was we had to start looking for things to fill the house with. We need another couch. We left our big sectional couch there. Another room that was a dining room. We had a dining room table and a hutch. Beautiful, Kathy, just gorgeous. But there was a bunch of extra room over in the corner. So Kathy's like, we probably could use another couch over here. Anyways, we had a lot of... So I started on the search. And all of a sudden I'm finding all this furniture for next to nothing. Beautiful leather couches, leather chairs, tables, you name it. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? What's going on? Well, the short of the story is that I had been in this mindset of trying to hold on to a lot of different things because I had already paid for it and it had value to me, but where I was going. But then I get to Phoenix and I start looking around. By the end of it, I wanted to get a moving company going and start buying used furniture and taking it to different cities. I'd never seen anything like it. I'd lived in Dallas before. But the amount of furniture that was high quality, top of the line furniture for dirt cheap, I was blown away. And it was the weird thing was this guy had this chaise chair that went back, and he said it was a Lazy Boy leather, and it was about a 40-minute drive to Scottsdale. It was a 40-minute drive to Scottsdale from where we were living, and I told him I'd come get it. But then there was another guy that I found this big leather couch. It was the biggest leather couch I've ever seen, and it's 9 foot long, and it was like 5 foot deep. And he had it in there, and he had it in there for like, I don't know, $450. I'm looking up saying, that couch is worth thousands of dollars. You know, to get leather that clean, that big. So anyways, I went to the first guy, drove to Scottsdale, looked at it, and I'm realizing, okay, this is not a Lazy Boy. This is not leather. It's not even suede. It's material. But I told him I was going to get it, and I'm not going to go into the situation, but the guy wasn't in that good of a condition, and I'm just like, I told you, I gave you my word. Here's the 150 thing for it. It was probably worth half that, $50, $75. I'm like, screw it. But as I'm driving back in this truck that I rented another little truck from Home Depot, a little moving truck. As I'm driving back in this thing, I just got in what I call a spirit, a clear message to me that says, look, just because part of me was kind of going like, you know what, my first experience buying something, and it's not what the guy said it was, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I'm using the chair now outside. Now that the weather's cooled down, we put it outside. It is perfect on our back porch. But the Spirit said to me in my mind, let it go. Don't worry about it. What you're going to experience next is going to more than make up for it. And so Max came with me to help me, and I'm like, we're gonna make out better next, Max. Don't worry about it. So we go see this guy, the second guy, and I'm looking at this couch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this couch has to be worth like $5,000 or $7,000. I'm thinking I've never seen a leather couch that looked like this before. 9 foot long, 5 foot wide, deep, sitting in it, just go all the way back, and it's like, this is like a bed, and two people could sleep, you know. And he's like, yeah, this. And I'm looking around the rest of this guy's house, and he's got spectacular furniture, paintings, artwork. And I'm like, what do you do for a living? How do you have all this furniture? He says, well, I'm an art decorator, and I work out of Scottsdale. So he goes, like this piece here. He goes, you see that? He says, I had to actually cut part of my door out to work it in. He goes, this came out of the Wrigley Mansion, Wrigley Field, Wrigley Chewing Gum in Scottsdale. And they were just saying, just take it. And a lot of this furniture. So he says, a lot of times when I'm working with these clients, if they owe me money, they say, would you be willing to trade doing another day's work for this? And he's like, yeah. So he says, I got like 2 warehouses full. So here I am, and I meet this second guy, really nice guy. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the couch. What else you got? He goes, I got these end tables here. And I'm like, I'm looking at these end tables, and they're like pieces of art. Real heavy, real nice quality, combination of glass and rare hardwood and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, how much you want for them? I'm figuring they're $800-900 pieces each. He goes, can you give me $50 a piece? I'm like, sold. And so this give me, and then I called Kathy, and I said, and he goes, we're looking to get a new couch. We got this one, but this is it was the spectacular sectional. The ottoman in the literally Claire lays all the way out on the thing, and her head and toe, it's big square, and then the pieces that go with it, another chaise, huge sectional. And Kathy had said something, we got one couch we need in one room, but because we gave our big sectional away, so one thing leads to another. I don't know how much money I ended up spending. He said, yeah, we'll sell it to you. I said, how much you want for it? He tells me the price. I said, sold. So we had, and I come back, and Kathy was like, oh my gosh, you scored. She scored big time. But we still I needed a bedroom set, because I was sleeping on a twin thing, and I had given away a lot that was in my bedroom. And because we didn't know how long we were staying in Mount Shasta, I didn't buy everything that I should have bought there, because I'm like, I'll just wait till I move. Well, I waited 8.5 freaking years, and I didn't have what I wanted in a bedroom set, kind of just stuff I'd purchased at Costco and stuff. And so here I am in this big master bedroom at this new house, and I'm sleeping on a little twin bed, working my butt off, physically sweating, drenched, taking showers. and then just going right to sleep. And I need a bedroom, so okay, so we're looking. So then I find this guy, and we need some end tables throughout the house, So I was just like, all right, we're looking for end tables, and so I found different end tables, and I found this one guy that had 2 end tables, and I'm like, wow, he wants like $40 for these, and he said they're like $250 a piece, and I'm like, they're nice looking. I said, I have to take a look at it, and he said something. He said, are you needing a king size bed by any chance? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I am. I said, he goes, I got a whole bedroom set. And he goes, I'll sell it to you for this much. I said, do you have pictures? And so he sends me these pictures, and I'm thinking, wow, this is fun. And the bed had the mattress in it. I said, what's the deal with the bed? I don't really want to sleep on anybody. He goes, no, the mattress is like new. He goes, the house that I'm living in now, he goes, I'm from Santa Barbara. He said, we bought a house here. And he goes, after a year, my wife doesn't want to live here. He says, but we bought the house from these Canadians, and they had moved here, decided they didn't, probably because of the heat, who knows. He says they completely furnished this house. And he says they didn't want to stay here, so they sold it to us. They didn't want to come down further on the price. So I said to him, well, will you include the furniture? Like, yeah, well, we can't bring it to Canada, so yeah, we'll include the furniture instead of coming down on the price. So he says, I end up with all this furniture. And he goes, that was pretty far drive. That was about an hour, 10 minutes south of town. And I went down there, and I'm like, this was quality furniture. The mattress, I laid on the mattress. It was the best mattress I've ever laid on. Now, we got some really good Beauty Rest mattresses, top of line, and this thing excelled. Even Kathy, this day, she'll come in and lay down, and she'll go like, this is so good of a mat. This is the best mattress I've ever laid on. And so he took the sheets off. He says, because these are all new sheets that I purchased. They're all washed. He goes, there's 3 sets. I'll throw them in there with it. And I says, what else you got? So he had like all these glasses and wine glasses new and bottles of wine. He says, take some wine. And I said, how much you want for this whole box of these just, again, top of the line coffee mugs and wine glasses and drinking glasses. He goes, give me $20. So that went on, and I had everything I brought. I don't know, I had close to $2,000. I ended up spending it all on what this guy. I said, how about this? And I'd send Kathy pictures. She says, yes, no, what we would want or not. So I brought that back, filled the truck up, some nice artwork, some vases, and I bought all 4 of those nightstands that he had. It brought that back, and then we got to the point where, like, okay, we're good for a while with furniture. But taking you through this whole thing was, if I had known that what was waiting for me here in Phoenix, I'd have let a whole lot more go. I would have let a lot more go. It just known that it was here and available. So what I was trying to hold on to, because I thought it meant something to me, and it was almost as if universe or God, whatever way you put it, spirit, had much more waiting for me if I was ready to release and let go of what I already had. So when I'm doing work with people, this is how it works in a sense. What do they have that they're holding on to because they don't know what's ready for them in the future? And once people experience it, I worked with a guy this morning on a Sunday, and he was blown away. He was amazed. He didn't even know this stuff existed. Same thing with me. I had no idea that this kind of furniture existed for this kind of money with this quality. And now that I've been here for a while, I keep looking at furniture, and I'm not finding the kind of quality that I found when I first got here by releasing, letting go, giving that guy and a bunch of people saying, here, out of my heart, take it, enjoy it, have it. We left a refrigerator and freezer there. They were new. They were both $5,000 a piece. It was refrigerator, freezer, and a stove. KitchenAid and a Dacor stove, and that was going to come in the truck too, and I was going to try to sell it, and I finally was just like, you know what, came with the house, because the homeowner, when he was going through some tough times, he was selling us stuff in the house, a bunch of different things, washer, dryer, bicycle, really expensive mountain bike, top of line refrigerator, freezer, stove, all stuff that he put in his new house. And so we're like saying, okay, here, we'll pay you extra money. Here's the rent, but here's extra money for... So we could have brought that stuff with us, but it was kind of like, let it go. Let it go. Empty the space So whatever it is in your life right now, to think about, if you empty that space, what is there? Yeah, there was a possibility that we could have not got, and I'd had to, but I was ready to buy new furniture. I was ready to buy brand new furniture, finance it if I had to, but purchase it outright if I had to as well. But there was something about the two guys that I met that was perfect. Three guys actually, because the first guy I was kind of like, I had to work on my own crap about letting that go, because thinking I got taken advantage of or whatever like that, and just be able to say, okay, I'm coming into Phoenix. I want a new attitude. I don't want to hold on to this stuff. I want to let it go. This is part of my own work. Let that go with the first guy. The second guy, as I got the message clear that it was going to be more than enough to take care of it, and it was. The first guy with all the stuff I want, but then meeting the second guy and going getting that, and just the fantastic stuff we got to decorate this house, to have me the best bedroom set I've ever had. I mean, the best mattress I've ever had. So the blessings that were there from releasing that, letting it go, and trusting it, and just saying, hey, I'll figure something else out if something will happen to it. Again, I've seen some really nice furniture for sale at really good prices, but nothing like I got this summertime. Nothing like I got. So my question to you is, what's waiting for you if you release it and you let it go? Whether it's something you want to work on, it's a belief system, something emotional, something deep that makes you feel a certain way, and you're ready to let it go. If you let that go and you make space for that, you make room for that, and there's an opening, how you let go of that might determine what you get and what comes in. Part of the work that I'm doing with people, and it's reached, I don't even know I can't say a plateau or a new level. It's something different. It's something new. Something is happening, and I know other people in this field, it's starting to happen to them too, where we're touching something as we deal with these beliefs, and how we let the beliefs go, what we believe, how we let it go, and how we make room, and then how do we bring something new in. There's magic in that process, and here I am doing it with people, working with people every day doing this stuff, and they're getting the results, but then I applied it to a different context of moving. The resistance that I had to letting go of that stuff, holding on to it. Because the environment that I was in Mount Shasta made me think within that context and that environment that I was limited in what it was worth, what I was worth, the situation there. What context are you staying in right now? Whether it's a house, whether it's a certain city or a state or part of the country, even country are you in, that you're holding on to because of some past beliefs that maybe if you let that go, you're getting messages. The messages we got that it was time to go. The fires, how close they were for the last 2 or 3 years that we were in Shasta, and the smoke, and then our dog dying from having to breathe that smoke. He had cancer, yeah, but he was getting better. He was living. But then the smoke, when we'd take him out, it'd knock him down. That I said to Kat, I said, we've got to go. It's time. We've got to go for the kids, to give them a different environment, to give them something new. Yeah, they've got connections here. They got ties. They got people. But what are they going to get in exchange for that? You know, what can Claire and Max get, and they enter that new environment? Kathy, since she's been here, her job and her business is thriving. The connections that she's made, the speaking, because she's a great public speaker. She's got all these offers to speak all the time. Where she's so busy, she's worn out. You know, she's got to kind of slow down and pick and choose what she's doing. We've been out of town. I went to Las Vegas now. It's really close, 4.5 hours drive away. So Hypno Thoughts this summertime, I went up there to work with one person, Ken Guzzo, and film him, and then I got saying, hey, look, without them knowing I was going there, another Jess, Sean, and Sarah from New York City called me up out of the blue and said, hey, look, we're going to need you at the same conference on the days before that didn't conflict with the guy I was already going with. Can you work with us there? Yeah, sure. So I ended up going to Vegas for like 9 days. Before that, we had just gone to Vegas for 5 days with Kathy's business, the DEF CON, which is a hackers conference there. Stayed at Caesar's Palace, just tremendous time, experience there. And all kinds of great things happened at the Hypno Thoughts, and I recently just signed up and people said, you ought to do this. So I sent in an application, and right away I got picked within like a week and a half, I think it was. They picked me, and now they're picking the rest of the people. So they said, yeah, we want you there, come. So I'll be speaking in Vegas. So the opportunities, the products, I'm building a non-smoking center here in Phoenix. So the opportunities, what's here by leaving something behind. So whatever was filled with what Mount Shasta was there, I get benefits from that. There's a lot of good to that. But when I put something in that space, what's not able to go in that space? That might be more appropriate and beneficial to me now in my life. And I'm finding that what I'm doing with clients is that work, but then I take that out of context and say, we know environment's about 51% of how you believe and how you live and what your behaviors are. It determines your behavior, your identities, your beliefs, environment, which means Phoenix, Arizona versus Mount Shasta. I mean, I feel a huge difference here. Kathy, huge difference. Max, we're working on him getting out more and meeting some people, but Claire is thriving here. Thriving. Singing, drawing, meeting people. Yeah, she misses her friends. She's back there right now. They're all back there doing a kind of a closure, going back and meet some people. And I figured it was time to do a podcast here. So food. Let's talk about how that. So now we got restaurants. Now we got all these great places to go eat, and we can't get enough of it. So now it's kind of having the other end of the effect of it. So we've got these fantastic places to eat. I mean, we've really found some incredible places to eat. But sometimes eating out isn't that healthy for you. So we got that to contend with. So be careful what you wish for sometimes. The sense is the possibility of now opening up space, letting things go, and letting things go in a grateful way. But there's also some magic that's going on with the process of how. And the clients that I'm working with. I used to only like to work with a client 1 or 2 times and then give me another client. And John Overdorf and other people say, you need to do more. And a lot of these clients say, I'd like to do more with you. And I'm kind of like, I don't. It was, I guess maybe I was looking at it as elements of the same problem instead of a bunch of different things. People say, no, I just want to get better at this. I want to do something different. And it's like, okay, so several years back, I decided to start doing longer sessions. I got some clients now over 2 years that I've been working with, and the magic that's happening, the things that are happening by, again, letting the space go and opening it up to say, what is it? How I let it go, how I open it up, how I make that space, and then how I receive what's coming in new is huge. Is huge to how that happens. And this is, again, I see it in different contexts with the furniture, with a vehicle that really, I think, started a lot of this process was that Shasta, we were kind of saying, with this weather, I'm like, it's going to get bad. And this year, the fires were horrendous up there. And Kathy felt horrible for it. We felt bad that so many places close to what we know, and she's now visiting it back there, saying how burned and how bad it looks. But yeah, we got to look out for ourselves in that sense to say, do we want to stay there, or do we want to move on and take this chance? I'm not going to say it's easy. But when you're doing it with beliefs and stuff, it can be easy if you've got the tools and you know how to do it, or you got a good coach, somebody that can guide you through it. I'll put myself in there. And then how do you receive what's coming in new? How do you prepare yourself to receive? This is huge. How do you prepare yourself to receive? So this, again, it works with belief systems. It works with your emotions, your thoughts. It works with how you set up your furniture, how you pack your truck. Would I pack the truck again, or would I let somebody else do it? I may let somebody else do it next time, hire a company to do it. These are old belief systems that are set in there that I had to kind of look and renew. But with going through so many decisions of so many personal items, books, furniture, and everything like that, to have to make all those decisions, I really was realizing how weighing psychologically these decisions can be, and that everything that I had, small pieces of paper, diplomas, whatever it was, stuff from when I was a kid, they all have a weight to it. And what became really obvious was that all the stuff that I carried from New York to Texas to then to Mount Shasta and now to Arizona, it's not just heavy physically and weighing that truck down like those books, but they all have a psychological weight to it. I remember my sister Diane one time, she was in New York and she was getting ready to move to Florida, and she was kind of going through something similar. And I said, Diane, why don't you just get rid of it all and go with some money and then make a decision how you want to start your life in Florida, because a lot of the stuff from New York isn't going to work in Florida. She's like, I think I'm going to do that. And she did. She ended up selling everything, and she had a nice wad of cash. And I said, how does it feel? She goes, fantastic. It feels fantastic. So she could end up going into something different, free. So anyways, I think you get a sense of where I'm going with this about the move. I give you a story or stories about the move. There's other stuff that I'll bring up in future podcasts. If you're interested, let me know. When I asked that question, I did not expect that kind of response back. So thank you for the responses back. I hope you get what you expected or you were looking forward to and from telling the stories. But I also like to kind of put some kind of a lesson in there, lessons for me, and hopefully you can learn something from these lessons that I went through. And if you've got something you want to work on, give me a call. Let's talk about it. I'm getting ready to change things up, and now I'm going to be speaking more, and I'm working on another book, some products, the Stop Smoking stuff, the Non-Smoking Center. There's some really cool things happening with that too. So smoking that was the first thing I did back in 1987. I worked with an old couple to help them stop smoking. But there was something about the smoking aspect of it I didn't like, and it didn't resonate with me. But now I look at how many friends and how many people I know that have died or gotten sick from smoking, relatives, people that are having real hard times with it. And I'm like, you know what, maybe it's time for me to revisit this again, do it in a different way. And then I run across Ken Guzzo, who's out of San Francisco area, Sacramento, and he's got like a month and a half waiting list, and hasn't advertised in eight years. It's all referral. He's worked with 6,000 clients, and he's got a 100% success rate. I'm like, if you'll teach me that, I'll learn this and start doing this myself. 100% success rate, that gets me excited. I want to know this method. So that's part of what I went to Vegas for. And that was a quite expensive seminar. We ended up working some deals out where I'd do some things for him that he needed done, and but it was a lot of work. It was expensive, and I'm still working on it to make it mine too. So it's his process, but I want to make it mine. And I'm only going to do that for a couple days a week. I'm only going to do a few clients because it's exhausting. There's a lot of work to it to have, get it done. So who knows where it's going? I'm not going to try to fill it up. I'm going to fill some of it up, but I'm also going to leave some of it open with possibility to say what wants to come in there. Because if it's all completely filled up and something new wants to come in, like the furniture, if I brought all that furniture and then put it in the house, I would have never seen that. I would have never been able to have the best bedroom set that I've ever had, to have this fine quality furniture that comes out of Scottsdale mansions. A lot of times they'll do it. This guy says the people do it every year. They'll have a different living room, dining room, get rid of all their furniture, redo it all in every year or two. He goes, the stuff isn't even used. It just sits there for a year, gets a little dusted, then they sell it or they give it to me or trade with me. So how's that relevant in your life? And if you want to do some sessions on that, let me know. I'd be more than happy to work with you. Either way, I'd love to hear back what you've gotten out of this. You can write me an email to mark@markjryan.com, or click on the link where the podcast is. There'll be something that says contact for a contact form. And I've seen to run out right now. There's more. There's different stuff that I have written down, but I think that's good enough for now. I think I got the message that I really wanted to get across was what happens if you empty that space in a certain way, prepare it to receive in a certain way, and then how to find out what you're going to get ready to receive. Think about that in your life, where you're living, maybe who you're living with, who your friends are, the job that you have, where you want to travel, how this can be relevant in all those different areas. Love to work with you and help you through the process. But if you got what I was saying here, you might be able to figure it out and just do it on your own. Either way, this is Mark J. Ryan. Thanks for listening. Hope you got something great out of this and useful. And we'll talk to you soon, as long as I get some feedback from you to let me know you want to hear more. Take care. Thanks. Have a great day.